We are so excited to be back for another segment of the Horseman's Hot Seat here at Horse Expo Canada 2024. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing Gerry Hansma, one of our clinicians here this weekend. And I should always double check, this is my colleague Alicia Bradburn. My name is
Hello.
Kylie Bartell. We are your co-hosts here this weekend for the Horseman's Hot Seat. So thanks so much for being here with us, Gerry. It's great to see you in person.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course.
Awesome.
Well, should we leap right in?
Why don't we? Yes.
I'm ready.
Excellent.
Okay. Gerry, the first thing that we want to know about, and we know everybody else would also want to know about, is when you are looking to purchase a horse or perhaps help a client purchase a horse, what sorts of things are you looking for? What would you sort of look for on that initial ride to kind of gauge if that was a suitable horse?
Right.
Yep.
There's a couple of options. It depends. In our line of work, we show horses for customers, or
Okay.
we coach people to. So it would be dependent on if the horse was for me to compete on,
Okay.
or for them.
Could you answer that both ways, just out of interest?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for myself, I mean, conformationally, we would look for a lot of balance. Everybody likes an attractive horse. You know, that's not necessarily a deal breaker if it's a good horse. Yeah, I mean, we're looking for some bone and foot and, the good eye. If it's a prospect, say a yearling, then that's all you have to go on, and bloodlines. You probably really like a good strong bottom line, a good producing mama. And as far as a broke show horse that maybe has been trained already, again, conformation, if there's something, they always do the x-rays nowadays on everything. So it'd have to, as long as there was nothing really that you couldn't maintain, you wouldn't rule out. Like an athlete, for sure. In our line of work is the cutting horse business. So we need a cow horse, but we need an athlete. And something, of course, we call it eye appeal because it's a judged event. Yeah. So, and that's no guarantee, but it gives you at least a shot at being in the finals, or somebody, the judge takes you serious, that sort of thing. That would be for myself. Probably a horse, maybe, that's a lot of horse that maybe, really feely, we'd call it, and maybe the average rider wouldn't suit so much. Looking for a horse, say for an amateur rider, depending on their experience. Same thing. The better horse, a good quality horse it really matters. But sometimes buying too much of a horse for somebody when they're first learning is not the best way to go.
Right.
And that's a hard thing to do because, I guess we're competitive, right? Or, if I'm spending the money now, why don't we just go spend that little bit more and get a good horse? But that can work against you because most horses will go down to the rider's level pretty quick. Yeah. And so if they don't have a lot of experience working cattle, being around cattle, don't understand cattle, most horses for, say, an amateur rider have to be able to handle when the rider makes an error. They kick at the wrong time or their timing's off, that the horse can kind of work through that. So that's what we look for that level. And then you have another level where there's, say, a non-pro that has more experience. And there would be very comparable probably to what I would like to ride in a way. They have the skills, they have the experience, so they need some horse flesh under them too. And then doing the vet work,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gerry, have you ever heard that, principle that when you were talking about looking at prospects, this made me think of a principle I once heard about looking at a horse, a snapshot of their conformation, what they were going to turn out like. You could kind of look at them at like 3 days, 3 months, and 3 years. Have you ever heard that? Do you believe that?
You know, we raised lots of horses over the years. So I mean, I guess we've been around colts and, you know, the whole growth spurt, the ugly yearling
Awkward.
stage, and that whole the whole 9 yards, right? Yeah, I don't think I ever studied that part of it. I mean, you know, you look at them as colts, and I suppose you dream.
Yeah, for sure.
You got big plans, right? Yeah. But most horses, for me, really, they can have the pedigree. And I mean, we've gone out and bought expensive horses for people, right? Or for ourselves. And that's no guarantee that this is going to work.
Totally.
Like, it's a nice horse, but it might not fit the field that you're focused on.
Yeah.
So I leave the door open a bit as far as generally, like for us, the pedigree makes quite a bit of difference, right? I mean, we're not trying to buy a pleasure type bred horse to be a cutting horse or even a reining horse to be a cutting horse. We're pretty job specific in a way. So the pedigree tells you a lot. I like to take say a 2-year-old or a prospect. I like to turn them loose in a round pen.
Okay.
And just watch them move, not scare them, but just watch how they naturally travel, how they would stop, how they react, but you can make a horse look really athletic if you scare them enough.
Right.
Yeah. How do they travel naturally, just quietly? How do they set their feet? Do they draw on their hocks through a turn? To me, that tells me a lot of natural ability. Now, are they going to be super trainable? Are they going to be super cowy? I don't know. But I can't make them athletes.
Yeah.
That's got to be natural.
Yeah.
And then I try to instill into them what I would like for them to do. But they have to be athletic to start with. I can't change that part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me think one of the questions we have here is, what is your favorite breed of horse? I'm assuming it's going to be the quarter horse, but I also don't want to put words in your mouth. But I'm curious specifically in the breeding aspects of what you do, what are you trying to build in the horses that you're bringing along and that you're breeding?
Well, I mean, we're focused in the cutting horse world, right? And I mean, it kind of translates into the cow horse world also.
Yeah.
I mean, the pedigrees are pretty similar. Not a lot. Training's different. I think cow horses are very well broke, and they're phenomenal horses. I mean, as far as mind and the things they got to know how to do is amazing. I find cutting easier for me. I relate it to a cow. But really, I mean, you'd want to breed. I mean, conformation is always a big deal, and there's some holes there with structure as far as, you know, bone and stifles and that. There's some issues. I don't know. I don't think it's gotten any better. I don't think, you know what? I've talked to people that are in other disciplines, and they have same issues in different areas.
Yes.
But you kind of assume, because this is what I know, I just thought, well, maybe it's just our industry.
Right.
But it seems like there's, you know, structure and bone, and there's things genetically that can be a problem. And yeah, you have to be aware of it. I mean, they have lots of x-rays, but they do have, AQHA has the genetic testing, which helps.
Yeah.
You know, there's some issues there. Yeah, you just do the best you can.
Yeah. And would you say that a quarter horse is your favorite breed of horse?
Yeah,
or?
that's what we've been exposed to. We were involved with thoroughbreds years ago, you know, a little bit more. But that's been our field. I mean, performance horses, really. I mean, not just quarter horse, but quarter horse performance horses. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Sure. In studying up on you a little bit, Gerry, we found out that you're...
Oh, is this going to get embarrassing here?
I don't think so.
Oh, good.
But we found out that you actually started in the English disciplines, specifically, I believe, hunters and jumpers. We were just wondering, what was the transition like for you going from English to Western? Was there some takeaways that, like, you would say are, like, you know, similar in both disciplines?
You know, there's horsemanship.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what
Right.
discipline you're in.
Yep.
But you know, we were exposed to it. I think just that's what our dad,
Okay.
you know, whatever it was to make a living. I mean, we had everything back in the day when we were kids, and he loved horses, and we had, you know, thoroughbred crosses and, you know, appendix, and
Yep.
yeah, we did the
Nice.
pony things when we were kids and all that.
Yeah.
But I think it was, and we learned to ride just in the Okotoks area. There was a lady there that did lots of riding lessons, so we learned English and jumping, and I think it was all good stuff, right? I mean, it just
For
makes
sure.
you, as far as balance and riding and you know, timing, you know, all that. It doesn't matter if it's cutting, jumping, you know, that timing, it's all important, right? So yeah, I think the more experience you have, I always thought there's some drawbacks. If you're changing events, you know, what you've learned and done well, maybe at or not so well, it's hard to let go of some things that
Yeah.
don't apply to the new discipline.
Totally.
Agreed.
Really frustrating, because
Yeah.
it's like, man, I learned 10 years to do this, and now this doesn't apply to whatever
Yes.
I'm trying to do now.
Totally.
Yeah. So, you know, when you get to be as old as I am, you look back, and I think because you can understand the pieces of it, and it's about knowing where the horse's feet are, but you know, as you're learning, I mean, it's school of hard knocks sometimes. So, yeah, it can be frustrating, but you know, I think that's just part of learning. You never quit
Yeah.
learning. There's always something new. Like the type of horses we ride nowadays, they're just bred to be, they're more trainable. They're bred to do what we like to do. They're more athletic. They're, you know, there's just, yeah, it's just a huge step in the, and that's the way it's supposed to evolve. Even the horse training, when I look back at what we would have known 20 years ago to what we know now, it's just strides different. And I mean, horse flesh has something to do with it, but just the knowledge. You know, it's been around long enough that people are always learning.
Totally. And do you
Yeah.
think that you maybe with the invention of, you know, podcasts and the internet and other things, does it feel like maybe information is easier to share these days or get across to a wider audience? Or why do you think that has changed so much recently?
There's
advanced?
still lots of knowledge, but you know, when it comes to training and riding, you got to do it.
Yes.
The videos are great. The instruction's great. But you've got to learn to apply it. And what does it supposed to feel like? So it can be confusing. I remember years ago taking clinics, and these guys, very knowledgeable people, I would be not a clue what they're trying to tell me. It's like a foreign language.
Totally.
Could be a couple months later, all of a sudden your light bulb goes
Yeah.
off, eh? But that's learning.
Definitely.
But you've got to learn. You've got to do it
Yeah.
and feel it.
And I think be willing to embrace
And
the
experience
struggle.
it.
Yeah, and be
Yes.
willing to struggle through the
Yeah.
front end of learning it so that you can be good at
Yeah.
it later on.
And you know, there's some people it doesn't seem like they don't struggle that much. It's frustrating because somebody that's just, I don't know, they're natural, I guess.
Right.
They just show up and you're like, well, it's going to take them a while, and you're like, wow.
Maybe it's not.
Not.
Maybe we just got to be present for what's in front of
Yeah.
us. And
No,
that's the
so
way to
I
go.
mean, if you really like doing what you're doing, you just work at it. You don't know where it's going to go, how it's going to end up. For me, the biggest thing, when I quit blaming the horse for what's holding me back, or sometimes maybe a little bit because they're maybe not the athlete they need to be, but a lot of times it wasn't me. It was me not doing my job right.
Right.
You know, and so it's
Yeah.
learning more. You know, and just hey, it's a process.
Yeah. And taking responsibility.
Yeah, it's a
Absolutely.
process, you know,
Yeah.
and for me, it was what really helped me is showing a lot. Because you try different things, you find out what doesn't work, or hey, this was better than last week or 2 weeks, and you know, and every horse is different too, so that really can make it tough. Might work on one, not the other. So you get to try different things and find out what works, and yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It makes me think of one of the questions I also wanted to ask you was, you know, that we're talking about this process of how do we engage with learning and going through all these different phases. So if someone was to be your student, so you're going to coach on someone, what is the secret to earning your respect and admiration as a clinician?
Doing the jobs I don't want to do.
The pooper scooper?
There you go.
No, really. Because to me, I mean, we've done it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fix fence, clean barn. I mean, you name it. Whatever needs to be done, you got to do it. Nobody's above it,
That's
in
great.
my opinion.
I like that. I mean, yeah. I agree.
So I've had people that were, oh, no, I just want to ride, and I'm like, you know what? There's a truck that needs to be fixed and a tire that there's other things to make this operation work.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's riding. Yes, it's important. Of course it is. That's the business.
Yeah.
But hey, there's some stuff that needs to be done in the background to
Totally.
keep the wheels going, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
So to me, somebody that's willing to just do the work that needs to be done and still has a goal,
yeah.
then I think they're going to get there.
I like that.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's great.
Jerry, what is it about horses that made you want to work with horses for your profession?
I wasn't that smart in school, so I kind of
Limited some options, maybe.
maybe I'll try horse training.
Right.
We were exposed to it. And you know what? When we were, of course, I'm old enough. When we were younger, it wasn't really a profession necessarily that you would not. There was guys, a great horsemen, but if it wasn't always something you would necessarily aspire to be, as far as because it wasn't maybe a great living back, well, quite a few years ago. But nowadays, there's tons of opportunity. Like it's just changed. It doesn't matter. There's so many. Even in horse breeding and raising, there's, you look at rope horse fraternities and barrel horses and breakaway roping, and, that it's just kind of things have boomed, right? So you're not limited. I think when we were growing up, it was the quarter horse shows was the big thing. And but then some of these other associations kind of branched off and started their own groups, and they kind of, grew, and it just gave people more opportunity. And of course, as the economy gets better, people have more excess money to spend on their hobbies. It all makes a difference. Huh? Yeah. You still got to love to work horses and do that sort of thing. I think the only reason I was in it, we were just exposed to it kind of as kids growing up. And there's I've had lots of customers, very successful business people, done well in life. They were envious of me. And I'm like, are you nuts? Well, you get to do something you love, and there's something about the horse, that connection.
Totally.
And I'm like, why are you envious of me? I'm working 7 days a week, and you're working 3, 4, and now you're coming to ride your horse, and I'm giving you that. Yeah, but there's something about that connection, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that perspective too, I think, is it's always appreciative when we can share that with each other and go like, oh yeah, maybe there is something here right under my nose that's pretty good stuff. Well, we're just about at the end of our time for today, but we got one more question for you. How do you prepare to ride or train on any given day? How do you decide what you're going to do when you're training on a horse?
It depends on the horse. You just get up and go to the barn and go to work, and there's nothing special. Usually, I don't take all the credit because we always had great people at the barn. You can't do it without good help. And so you can focus on your main job. And that's been getting a little tougher the last couple of years, just because not everybody wants, it's a lot of hours. Because there's more than just riding, right? It's all the care and the background stuff, and so not everybody wants to do that. Everybody, a little bit, just teach me what I need to know, and I'm out of here, kind of thing, a little bit sometimes. But I think it's just I grew up around it.
And then with that support, does that give you more time then to think about how you're going to plan a specific session with a horse, or like when you're going into a ride, do you do anything to kind of?
It just comes down to what that horse is up to that day.
Gotcha.
We ride a lot of young ones.
Yeah.
Colts.
Yeah.
like just younger, say, I mean, 2s, but 3, 4-year-olds, and they're still young.
Yeah.
The older horses, generally, they're on more of a fitness program
Yeah.
because they have the knowledge. They don't need the training, so it's more keeping them conditioned.
Yeah.
So they get just miles put on them outside, and it's good for them anyways.
Totally.
So the young ones, it really depends on what they're up to that day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the big thing you're working on is consistency.
Okay.
And, you know, if they're fresh or whatever they're up to that day,
Yeah.
you deal with it as it comes.
Yeah.
You know, you just spend that extra time. I like to keep my sessions short.
I was going to ask, how long do you usually go for,
Yeah,
and when do you know?
I don't have a clock on them.
Do you have how do you make the decision when to quit or when to end a session?
Well, you always want to, it's like quit on a good note.
Yep.
If you had an issue, you feel a little bit of change. You feel you know, whatever the issue was, and they might struggle with you. They might fight you on it. But you feel them go, okay, I can get this. And I mean, you're not looking for perfection, but you're looking for that change. Then that's it for today.
That's great.
And that's why you ride them the next day,
Yeah.
and the day after, and the day after that.
Yeah, the consistency.
And it's not, you know what, you can't look at your watch and say, you know, I got to be in town in an hour. I'm going to jump on this one quick, because that's kind of a bad omen right there.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say
Yeah.
that's not the good start
No.
to any session.
It's however long it takes. It's like working cattle. You know, you don't look to see how much time you got. Just it takes as long as it takes.
Yeah.
And it's the same with horse. I like doing short, successful kind of sessions, and that's why I ride every day. Is because that's what they learn. It's repetition, right?
Yeah.
So just hit and miss doesn't work. It depends where you're headed.
True.
You know,
Very true.
if you're just training a riding horse, you know, and I'm not saying just a riding horse, because those can be rare to find too, right?
True.
But that consistency, whatever you're training for, is key, and then not making it a big chore.
Yeah.
Now, later in their, you know, especially as 2-year-olds, but as the program progresses, you need to kind of make it a little bit of work once in a while.
Yeah.
So they learn that it's not, hey, if I enjoy this.
A work ethic.
Yeah, a little bit of work ethic, you know, today, because that, for us in the show situation, it matters right at that moment. It's like not if they were, well, he's ready 30 seconds after I started my performance or whatever, that's no good.
Yeah.
But there's that consistency and just doing it every day. You know, unless you do it, we used to ride, you know, in the summers, we had some of those years in the 80s were so hot and dry. We'd start at first, 4 in the morning, ride till, we thought we were smart because they said, well, let's ride till it gets hot, then we'll ride in the evenings again, we'll sleep in between. Well, the phone rings during the day, right? So that didn't work so good.
Yeah.
But we would ride right till dark, right? But we were a lot younger then.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
when
fair.
you're keen and
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed,
Yeah.
going and getting after it. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much for your insights.
thanks for having
sharing.
me. I enjoyed being here. This is the first time I've been here, and
Yeah.
this morning went well, so
Yeah,
I wasn't sure how things were going to go.
Super
It was
fair.
good.
I did want to, before we let you go, I'd love to hear, do you have a booth or a place where people can
No.
connect with you? Okay, then
No, I'm
let
just
us
wandering
know.
around. I'm usually at the beer parlor.
Hey,
wanna find
that's
me?
exactly what I wanted to know. If people wanted to find you and bend your ear a little, where could they find you? And then
Yeah.
maybe just give us a little bit of information about some of the other things you'll be doing over the weekend coming up. So where can
We're just
they can see
hanging
you?
out over at, I'm not sure what building that is. It's the
The
far one.
far one, the
wherever it is.
pavilion through those doors over there. You guys have some demos and lessons happening.
Yeah, I do do lessons.
Great.
We have 5 students. We did
Awesome.
flag work and
Yeah.
cattle work. We worked on herd work this morning with live cattle.
Awesome.
And then tomorrow, just a continuation
Brilliant.
and then tomorrow I think it's at 9:30 or 9 it starts. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Same group,
That's great.
kind of the same, and just kind of little increasing the degree of difficulty and that kind of thing as best we can with,
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, build that progression over the
you
weekend.
betcha. That's what we're going to try to do.
Love that.
Right on.
That's great. Awesome. Well, Well, yeah, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for your time.